Good afternoon, everybody. It's Sunday, 31st of July 2022, and it's 1:15 in the afternoon. Just had lunch and going to introduce this episode. Sorry it's late. As usual, we have been very busy on multiple fronts. We've just had a shower, as you can see behind me, and I'm just going to give you a quick walk around the boat and show you the areas that we've been working on. All of these will be covered in much more detail in the coming weeks. I'm just doing this to show you what we've been doing in the last few weeks. Do you remember this? Yes, that's come on a lot. Done a huge amount of work here. Dominic has more or less finished it off. Well, between the two of us, we've more or less finished it off. Dominic does all the skilled work and I do all the donkey work. I've just got to put the cut the tops, cut the tenons on the top, and then I can start putting the capping rail on there. What else have we been doing? We've been putting on mooring furniture, like these mooring posts and these Panama cleats, which we've spoken before about. They're all on now. You can see up forward there. The wood on the deck there is to make new pin rails, which are going to be a bit bigger than this. There'll be a sort of that long, cover between 4 stanchions actually on both sides. So that's Dominic's thickness the wood for me, so that's ready to do. Mooring, oh yes, the collar for the main mast, Dominic's made a lovely job of that. Randy's varnishing it at the moment just to protect it, because most of it won't actually be seen, unfortunately, because a canvas boot goes over the top of that and a little bit of the way up the mast to stop water going down the mast. So you don't get to see much of that, unfortunately, but a beautiful job there, and I'll talk to you about that and the design of it in an upcoming video. More on that in a minute, and I'll explain that. What else have we done? Oh yeah, big job. We've got finally the port side. This is a manual winch on this side. The port side anchor horse pipe. That's it. I get tongue-tied here. So the anchor horse pipe that goes down through and out the side of the hull down there, as you can see, and I'll obviously bring you the more details in the coming weeks. I'll show you how we put that together. That was quite a big job actually. It was a real three-dimensional one. It's very difficult to do. Anyway, not going to dwell on that. So that's in there now, so really pleased about that. What else we've been doing? Oh yes, refitting these lockers, much modified, and I'll cover all of that in upcoming episodes. We put a floor in there, raised floor, to stop stuff. Basically it's all been designed so it hardly touches the deck, which is the main thing there. More mooring stuff, and we've even started preparing some of our navigation stuff. I mean, stuff that we're going to need to actually sail the boat, because we think we're getting close. I mean, there is a good chance, more of this in coming episodes, but there is a chance that in the next couple of months we may get our mast stepped, and what we're really hoping is to do sea trials before the end of the year, but more on that later. But we are preparing, so we've bought a nice new radio with lots of nice safety features so that it's easy for both of us to handle. Short-handed, I mean, if I go overboard, for instance, Randy needs to know that she can deal with everything, and the modern equipment helps with that. Transponder AIS, so we transpond and receive, and little things really. This nice, I've just got this, and a really nice stand for a iPad, which is our principal navigation aid, other than obviously charts, but we use Navionics on that, so that's really nice. That's really handy, that for the boat. And that's sort of about it really. Those are the sorts of fronts we've been working on. We've also done chain plates, of course. We've got the chain plates for the main mast, and we've been working on the chain plates. You can see one here modelled. What we've had to do is, because we've changed the shape of the stern here, I've been templating the shape. Dominic's been bending them using their nice big bending machines, so that we can fit them, and it's a tricky job because you're working down in the engine room in a tight space, hot and stuffy. And despite the little rain shower that we've just had, we've also during the last couple of weeks had to endure record-breaking heat wave here in the UK. We hit 40 degrees in the shade here on deck during that weekend. And we got very much involved in saving seagulls, of all things. You can see them out there now, look, all bathing. They love that little rain shower, I'm sure. But what happens with the seagulls is, and I'm not sure why, but they can get waterlogged, so their feathers lose their sort of oily water resistance for some reason, and also don't do their job. And you can imagine you know, how that weighs them down. And over the course of, you can see them sinking, you know, slower and slower in the water until they drown. Basically, it might take 2 or 3 days, and it's pitiful to watch them furiously paddling around, because of course if they stop paddling, if they stop moving, they sink even faster, and then in the end they end up hanging on to bits of vegetation. I don't even see on the quayside wall over there, there's a bit of vegetation, some weeds and things, and very often they'll gravitate to those and grab hold of them with their beaks, and that's it. That's all that's keeping them up at the very end, and then they sort of drown, die. You know, it's awful, really. It's pitiful to watch. So what we do is we try to rescue them. We very often go out in Lily and pick them up straight out of the water into the boat, bring them back, and they can rest and dry out on the pontoons. Or more recently, what we've been doing is making ramps for them so that they can get themselves out of the water. That's a much better scheme in a way, because they can do that any time of day. And we've had dozens, absolutely dozens of them. We built the ramps so that the ramps go deep under the water. Well, you know, I say deep, 6 inches or so that the birds can literally swim straight up onto the ramp, because they cannot get themselves out with the sheer sides of the quays, the dockside walls here. That's one of the reasons they get waterlogged, because they can't get onto dry land to sort their feathers out. And when they are waterlogged, they can't even step up onto a half an inch platform. They literally have to get up onto the ramp. And you see here from these images, some of the birds that we've been saving, and they love it. I mean, after 2 or 3 days, they stay with us for 2 or 3 days, and then they go off. But back to Josefine. This is an ideal opportunity to get our video timelines all sorted out. The sort of rescue rebuild of Josefine is really a story of 2 halves. The first half down in Sharpness, at the southern end of the Gloucester and Sharpness Canal, where I spent the time refitting the inside of Josefine, and in Copenhagen, Denmark, where Randy spent all those years working to try and keep us financially solvent. The second half of the story has been played out and is currently playing out here in Gloucester, at the northern end of the Gloucester and Sharpness Canal, at Tommy Nielsen's shipyard, where we have practically rebuilt the rest of Josefine. In parts 1 and 2 of this video series, we showed you the second half of the story. And in parts 3 through to 11, we showed you part 1. A little bit confusing, I know. But now we're going to put that right and get the timeline sorted out, everything in its place. And I'm going to start by briefly explaining our move from Sharpness to Gloucester, because that really was a momentous time for us. We had all sorts of expectations and goals, and they never quite turn out the way you think they're going to, so we'll just cover that a little bit, and then we're going to, that will sort of bring us up to the beginning of this year. That will bring us up to January of this year, just 6 months away, and from this moment onwards all our videos will be linear in time, which will make it much easier for me actually making the videos, because it's quite confusing as well to make them when you're having to juggle the past, so that would be nice. And we also hope that if things do go to plan, the way things are panning out at the moment, that there will be, as I said earlier, an opportunity to do sea trials before the end of the year. We won't set off on our voyages, our planned sort of worldly voyages, until next year, because we're already in the middle of this season and there's no way we can get going this year. But what we could do is get the sea trials done. So I'm really hoping that in the next few weeks I'm going to show you all the work we've done since January. It shouldn't take too long, but you've seen the sort of results of some of it, but I'm going to explain all of that work and show that work in more detail because I have been filming it. And then by the time I've actually shown you that, we'll be further on by a couple of months. And what I'm really hoping is that we can take you live on our sea trials. We'll have really caught up by that stage, and then all our videos will be more or less contemporaneous. So that'll be really good fun. And also by that time, hopefully, I will have persuaded Randy to get in front of the camera a bit more. She's a bit camera shy, and you should be able to see a little bit more of her. So all good things to look forward to. But first, let's deal with that move. In our last episode, we showed you the internal fit out, the completed internal fit out of Josefine. And at that time, that was at the beginning, that brought us to the beginning of 2020, obviously down in Sharpness, and Randy had just come back from Copenhagen for good. And I think the best way to deal with that is to show you a little video clip that we made actually at that time, at the beginning of 2020, explaining for our friends and family our thoughts and our goals and expectations, really. Hi everybody, here's a Rona-free update from Sharpness from Randy and I. We're sitting on the banks of the River Severn, in amongst the flotsam and driftwood and the high tide mark here, as you can see around us. And we're just a quick message because we are entering into what we hope will be the final phase of our rescue package of Josefine, so that we can finally get off on the adventure which we planned 5 years ago. But we are now entering into the final phase because we're ready to take the boat up to Tommy Nielsen's shipyard in Gloucester. They've booked us in for the second week in May, so we're all ready for that, raring to go. And that brings us to the reason for this update, I suppose, really, is that Randy's back.
Hi guys, as Reggie said, I'm back from Denmark. I've been back for just over 3 weeks and enjoying being back, especially with the weather as it is at the moment. I'm really looking forward to our new adventure on the boat, which probably won't be till next year, but we've got a lot to do before then, so we just have to take one step at a time. I'd like to say thank you to everyone in Denmark. I had a fantastic time with you. Oh, I'm gonna cry. Yeah, it was really great, and yeah, I had a great time with you guys in Denmark, and I'm gonna miss you, and I do miss you, but I'm loving my new life here. But we'll meet again when.
If everything goes to plan, we will be locking out of here at this time next year, and literally, sailing past where we're sitting now. We're now 4 years on, so we're 4 years older, and that means our aching bones are 4 years older, and we're just not, we're obviously not as fit as we were then. Once you get to this age, things go downhill fairly quickly. So we know we know.
On a good note.
Yeah, we know we can do.
Positive.
We know we can do 2 or 3 day passages with just the two of us. Handling the boat's really not that big a problem. It's sleep deprivation that's going to be a problem. We can't stay awake as long as we used to be able to, So doing 4 hours on, 4 hours off with just 2 people is very tiring. For 2 or 3 day passages we'll be fine. So what we've decided is that anything longer than that, because we're intending to go up to the Scottish West Isles, then over to Denmark to see family and friends there, Sweden, because Randy was born in Sweden. We've got plenty of friends and family there. And then the Norwegian coast. And what we like to do is Faroe Islands, Iceland, Greenland, and then British Columbia. And our choices to get to British Columbia are via the Northwest Passage, which I really love to do. That would be absolutely fantastic, along the Arctic Circle. The easiest but the most boring and expensive would be the Panama Canal. And another exciting route, but it's a long way round, would be the Horn. So, yeah.
One step at a time, darling.
One step at a time. One step at a time, yeah. So
If
this is
we
our...
just make Scandinavia, I'll be happy.
Yeah, well, if we just get the boat finished, I'll be
Yeah.
happy.
But
Well,
we
yeah.
won't be doing this by ourselves.
No,
We'll have crew to go long distances. I mean, we are hoping that we can do Denmark, Norway, Sweden on our own. But
What we're going to do is get some young people, and they don't have to have any sailing experience. It just could be, family, friends, or anybody really, who wants a bit of an adventure and is under the age of 60.
well, we have already got.
under the age of 25, 30.
Well, we've already got quite a few people that are signed up for it.
We've got a shortlist already.
Yeah, so that's nice.
So yeah, that's what we're intending to do, and it would be fun for us as well. To have from time to time some young people on the boat. It'll be a bit of a crack. So that's our plans. That's in sort of next year at the moment.
And we can take quite a few people.
Yeah,
can't
we can sleep 9 people on the boat, but I've made it very comfortable to have 2 permanent crew on the boat if that was necessary.
That's
So
true.
so that's we're sitting on the banks here looking out down towards the Atlantic. You can't help but dream, of course, but that is what this is all about, and we are getting close to it. Randy coming back full time is a big step forward for us, and getting the boat into Nielsen's is a massive step. We were supposed to have taken her there over a year ago, but they couldn't fit us in because they had some other big projects, and we can't wait to get started on that, because once we start that with Nielsen's, it's the beginning of the end as far as building Josefine and getting her ship shape. We know once that project begins with Nielsen's, we know that we will be ready this time next year. So that's a really massive step for us. And Randy coming back is part of that, obviously, because we're all geared up for that now. Of course, nothing ever really goes to plan, does it? And because of COVID and because of a lack of a slot for us at Tommy Nielsen shipyard in Gloucester, we had to wait another agonising 3 months before we could come up to Gloucester. But we weren't idle during that time, of course. We've always something to do, and in this occasion, I think, what did we do? We restored our tender lily, so that was a good opportunity. And finally, in September 2020, we finally got the nod to come up to T. Nielsen's in Gloucester to start the work on Josefine's structural rebuild. And of course, our lives turned upside down once again. Everything changed. Because of COVID, we had to move off Josephine and find an apartment, which we did in Gloucester, where we lived for 6 months. That was inevitable in many ways. It wasn't just because of COVID. The amount that we had to pull Josephine apart would have made it very difficult during that short period. That, you know, those 6 months that we moved off would have made it very difficult to live on the boat. So we endured an apartment for 6 months. And also we had to very quickly get used to Tommy Nielsen's working routine, daily working routine. Well, we didn't have to, but we decided to. They start work at 7:15 in the morning and finish at 4:15. And it's, you know, for youngish people, that's not so bad, but for two oldies like Randy and I, it was quite hard work, actually, you know, Monday to Friday. We deliberately decided to stick to their work routine, and we still do to this day, and I think it's been an extremely good routine. It's very easy to let projects like this slip, take time off, and the more times you do that, the easier it becomes. So we've stuck religiously to their daily work routine, and work, you know, more or less as if we were employees of Nielsen's, and that's worked really, really well. And I think if we hadn't done that, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be in the position that we are today. The project may well have faltered or failed. It is at this point that parts 1 and 2 of our video series take up the story and show you all the work that we did in those first 14 months after arriving here at Tommy Nielsen Shipyard in Gloucester. For those who haven't seen parts 1 and 2, here's a few images that will give you an idea of what we were up to during that time. But if you want to see in much more detail what we actually had to do, then I recommend you now go back and watch parts 1 and 2. That's our foredeck. It was our foredeck. So you can see the beams have been exposed, all the deck is up, and you're looking down into the master cabin actually. You can see that already we've started the reconstruction, or I haven't, Dominic has. He's cut that really beautiful beam, so we've got a brand new beam in there now. That looks fantastic, bringing back strength to the boat. First time I filmed down here actually, but you can see it's an awful mess. I spent 2 years building this and making it look really nice, and of course it all had to come out, and then of course there's all the debris that falls down every day. Randy's forever cleaning. So we've stripped all that away, and the new partners are now, as you can see, between those beams, so they'll sit beneath the deck planks. The deck planks will go flush over the top of all of that, so it's a bit motley. Everything's had 4 coats of undercoat grey, and you can see that the whole of the foredeck, in fact if I stand up on the coach house, I'll give you a slightly better view of that. You can see that everything has been fastened, fixed and painted. This is our foredeck, which is nearly finished. You can see there's one plank down the centre. That one needs a slightly wider width, so we've had to order in special wood for that, because we want to do it in one piece rather than 2 small ones. And then there's a bit of jiggery pokery going down here as well. And you can see we've also now finished off the timbers. We've modified all this around the rudder stock. We've chopped the top off the stern post, and that's been that then brings us to the beginning of this year, and in the coming weeks, as I say, we will show you what we have done over the course of the last 6 months. And to kick off this latest series, the final series I suppose, I'm just going to show you what we got up to in January of this year, where we were working on principally the capping rails. So I hope you enjoy the video, and see you soon. Good afternoon. It's Monday the 17th of January 2022, and it's 1:15. so just had lunch, and I thought I'd just take a quick break from what I'm doing to show you what I'm doing, which is the capping rail. We've moved on to the capping rail now. I still haven't finished the caulking of the hull outside. We were waiting for some good weather. It actually is a lovely day today. You can see the sun shining in through there, and I probably should have been outside caulking the hull, but I'm halfway through this part of the capping rail, so I'm going to continue with that and get it finished. I don't like leaving it half done like this, so I thought I'd just quickly show you what I'm up to. If I just put that to one side for a minute, my straight line, you can see here the tops of the stanchions, and starting up here, this is called the Knight's Head. It goes a metre or two down below the deck, and is an important structural part of the boat. So that's the Knight's Head, and you can see on the top there is tenons, so they line up with the mortise in the bottom of the rail. This is the bottom of the rail, and you can see a long one there to match the long tenon there, and then you've got the short tenons, those, and they match up with these here, which I've already cut, and I'll show you that later on how I go about doing that. So you've got all these tenons on top of the stanchions. I've got to modify this one because what I'm looking for is a nice level between all these. You can't have any ups and downs, waves in it, otherwise the rail won't sit flat on it and it won't be secure. Hence the metal rail, which, if I can do that and film at the same time, what I'm going to do is put that across there like that on top of the stanchions to give me the level. Okay, so that's the next job. And what I've done so far is I've fastened 3 sections of rail. Obviously that's not one long piece of wood, it's in 3 sections. There's one piece that's joined here, so there's a scarf joint there, there's another scarf joint there, so it's 3 pieces, and then the 4th is completely new. That's this piece that I've cut and I'm fashioning at the moment, and what I'm going to do is fix that. This is the top. What I'm going to do is fix that to the rest of the rail so that it's one nice straight piece. Then I can lay it on top of the stanchions and find out where the highs and lows are. You can see you can never have too many clamps, can you? So I've clamped these 2 parts together. It has to be a nice tight joint. The joint here between them's got to be really lovely and tight. So I've clamped the 2 together. I've cut these joints so that they are tight, and they're clamped side on, and then there's 2 blocks. There's a block there and a block there, so those are the clamps that are holding the blocks, and then there's a long clamp between them and drawing the 2 pieces together, pulling them tight together. So you basically find whatever means you can to get everything lined up and nice and tightly positioned. Now that it is, what I'm going to do, once I've taken the top off that, I'm going to, well, in fact I might do this first actually, come to think about it. What I'm going to do now is drill a hole through this part of the capping rail and into and through the second capping rail, the bit that I've added on. Drill a hole right the way through and then bolt the 2 together. So I'll show you what I'm using for bolts. La-di-la-di-la. So these are the bolts, and these are going to go through there like that. So I countersink here, I countersink on that side, put a nut on the end of that and bolt through. And they don't go straight through, they go at an angle, and if I put it at that angle, what it will tend to do is draw this piece into that piece, so making it even tighter. If I did it that way, it would tend to pull it apart because of that angle of that scarf joint. And Dominic did say that to me a couple of weeks ago, you know, when I was asking him how to go about doing this, and he said, Reg, put them at an angle. And what I did, stupidly, I sort of assumed it was the same technique as with the covering boards. I put one like that and one like that, thinking that the idea was to stop the two parts of the scarf pulling apart, but in fact that's not the case. They both go at the same angle, but obviously working in the same, it can only go in that direction. So drawing, closing up the gap, I'll do a little graphic to show this. So that's what I'm going to do now. Drill one there and one there, bolt that together, take that down, and then fit it, refit it, and make whatever alterations. This is one of those really fiddly jobs that can take an awful long time. It's quite difficult just handling a piece of wood that long, you know, getting it in position. I'm about halfway there, but it could be quite a fiddly afternoon. So I'll crack on with that, and I'll bring you back when I get it, if I get it anywhere close to being completed. So I'll catch you later.
That they have
energy in order to do anything. So it seems stuff.
15 minutes, we'll continue our static dimensions life across our by a short
rents and so on. The second is domestic, for food and household items. And the third is miscellaneous.
wouldn't be so good for the mind and the body.
I don't know what it's like to be able to change your color and shape without perceiving color with your eyes. So
So not a bad joint really, for an amateur anyway. This is obviously, you can see there's a lip here, which is as expected, because that was thickness to 2 inches, which this was originally, but of course it's been restored and rubbed down over the years, and it's about 1/8 of an inch thinner now, so it's about 1 7/8 rather than 2 inches. That's not a problem. I knew that was going to be the case. I just made sure it was flat on the back and raised up on the top, and then I plane that off. So I'll plane that level, and also this join here, there's a step there, deliberately left so that once it was all bolted together, I can now go ahead and fair that nicely. So that I'm good to go now.
When I was 7, I was walking across the bridge near the oval rugby field when I'd seen it, helplessly clinging to a council branch.
That's not too bad. It's all fared in now, nice and smooth with the old plank look. The original, by the way, the original plank came to a butt end here, and then a piece was added on in a butt joint, which is no joint at all in this case. I mean, it just meant that it was like a broken rail, I suppose. One piece of wood here and the rest of the wood there, so there was, you know, they couldn't stay like that. So I cut that piece out of the old piece, the scarf joint, and then made this to fit it. Maybe I should drill all the holes first. Maybe I should just drill all the holes first, Randy, before I fix it. And then put the mastic on.
If John has infections, he can still breathe them. And he has epilepsy too.
That's all the holes drilled. That didn't take very long. All countersunk and then drilled down. By the way, it's quite an advantage to use a long drill bit, I should say. I'll put a smaller one through. I'll push that one through. This is 12, which is not. This is much smaller than the original, but just for the sake of demonstration, by using a long drill bit, what you can do is make sure that it's aligned when you go through with the stanchion, and if it isn't, you can tweak it a little bit. Look, so that's really useful to use a nice long drill bit so you get it where you want it. So that's all done. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're all done. So now my job is to sort out the pins I'm going to need and straighten them and drill them through, and that's what I'm going to do next.
All of the UK have had an impact globally. And part of the thing that newspapers and newsrooms do say to themselves is, you might as well expect that seeing people's homes across the world have overcome stereotypes. To less than one.
Yeah, and I think very often the activists are afraid of actually showing progress because they are afraid that people will actually.
I might as well make my confessions now.
Come on, get them out.
Yeah, get them out. Those I know are too deep. I went way too deep on that one. Way too deep.
Yeah, they're too deep.
That's better, but still too deep. And that one I put right over the top of the mortise. It
Yeah,
went
that's
through
fine.
the bloody mortise, didn't it? So
That's
it
fine.
pulled the mortise out. So I've redone it here to the side of it. I plugged the mortise now as well.
Yeah.
I've put a block
Because you
in
took
there.
that away, you should have put your block in first, you see. Yeah.
I know.
Okay,
I know,
Lord.
I believe in
There you go. That's pretty good, look. It's in a line. It's flush with the stanchion and it's countersunk, and I'll put a wooden plug in the top of there. If I can get them all like that, I'll be happy. So that's me for the rest of the day. I'll bring you back in when I've done them all and show you how we finish it off.